Welcome to Art with Dianne Mahaffee. Today you will be learning how to do your last training painting. This watercolor lesson is called Training Painting Number 6. It is titled Sailboats at Sea. This painting is very dramatic and shows a storm approaching. You will learn how to make dramatic watercolor skies. Also, you'll learn how to make the ocean coordinate with the darks in the sky. And finally, you'll learn how to make sailboat reflections in the water. So, grab that paintbrush and let's get started. Alright, we are ready to get started now. The things that you will need will be the plain watercolor set, a 1-inch flat brush for watercolor, a number 10 round brush for watercolor, 9 by 12 inch watercolor paper, a watercolor jug with water, paper towel, a ruler, and pencil and eraser. Okay, so this is our goal for today, and you want to start off by getting your ruler and drawing your border. And this border will help your paper to lay flat. It'll also help you as you figure out where to leave whites, and you can match up your values better because you've got a white area to compare it with. Alright, so the first thing you want to do is draw the sailboat, the sails. And they're pretty much triangular, so, and make them big, and a little bit of diagonal here, and they're triangular, but they have curves to them. So here's the second one, and Hannah's going to be painting right along with us. Okay, after you've got those curved triangles, then start on the boat right below. So I'm going to do a horizontal line, a diagonal line, horizontal line, diagonal line. Come back over here, diagonal line, horizontal line, diagonal line, horizontal line. So if you'll just forget about your drawing a boat, think about those lines. Alright, I'm going to draw this little window right here. And then I'm going to draw a sailboat off in the distance. 2 more little triangles with the curve to them. Alright, on this one you don't need all the details on the big one that's close up. So a horizontal line, diagonal line, diagonal line, and horizontal line. That's all you need. Alright, we want a circle because at first this is going to look like a moon, but it's going to be a setting sun with yet a tropical storm approaching. So, freehand a circle. Notice how I do it in small strokes. And you can always erase. Alright, now the last thing you need to do in sketch is the horizon line. So bring it through the sails, about right there. Alright, you might see a bit of it right here, and it'll come over here and on across. Alright, that's all you need to sketch. So then you're ready to start working on the sky. Alright, so open your watercolor paint set, and this is one of my students' favorite introduction to watercolor training painting lessons. I've had my students vote on it before, and this seemed to be number 1. Alright, I'm going to prime my sky, and we're going to make a very dramatic sky, much different from the skies we did in the other training paintings. Alright, keep your border dry and keep your sun dry. I'm using a 1-inch watercolor brush. All right, now believe it or not, go right over the sails. Why? Because they're going to be black in the end, and they'll cover up the blue or what, the colors that we'll have in our sky. All right, so just paint right over the sails, but don't go below the horizon line. All right, be very careful. Slow down when you start to go around the sun. All right, now paint quickly because we want this to be wet when we add our color. All right, I've got one layer on here, so now it's time for me to do another layer. All right, so I'm going to go back and add my second layer. Remember, it's not primed until you get that second layer on there. One layer of water is not enough. All right, slow down again when you go around the sun. Go right over the sails. All right, get really close. Keep it out. All right, I'm looking across the surface to see if I see any dry places. I think it's wet enough. It's shining. That's an indicator that it's right if it's shining. All right, I'm going to jump right into the blue, starting at the top. Lots of blue. All right. Forget about all the drama going on and just pretty much do the whole thing blue, but you want different values of blue. Some light, medium, darks. Keep it really dark up in the corners with the blue. Sometimes you have to go back and add another layer. That's when watercolor looks best, is when you're having lots of layers. All right, go right over the sails. It's not going to hurt them at all. It's going to look weird for just a little bit. All right, I'm working on now getting some different values. Get really close to your pencil lines. All right, I can see about 3 different values of blue right now. I'll put just a little bit more here, across here, just so we don't have flat color. All right, I'm ready to add some black. Tilt your paper just a little bit so you'll get this rainy effect. All right, I'm going to jump right into the black. Notice I did not wash my brush out, because I'm just going darker. All right. And you're starting to get some drama. And get a little bit of a dramatic look here. All right, some more black. I believe I'll put it right here, coming into the picture. This will help emphasize my sun a little bit. All right, and if you get a bead of water here or there that's beading up, be careful, but that's a good time to get a paper towel, which I don't have on hand. Could you, Hannah, tear me off about half of yours? You'll need it too. Okay. All right, you've got one good. All right, so I'm going to lay that right here so it'll soak up some of that water and just touch it right here, and it'll get rid of some of the excess. And try to avoid patting your paper towel onto your painting, because you'll take pigment off if you do that. All right, I'm going to hold it up. I think I need a little bit more black right up here. This is time to evaluate it, but you have to do all this while your paper's wet. So you'll get those soft edges. All right, now notice how it looks rainy, and now's the time to lay it down flat. And that's when you'll let it dry. You can't do the next step till that step dries. All right, I'm going to wash out my brush, my 1-inch brush. This is a Winsor Newton 1-inch watercolor brush, but I noticed when I was in Hobby Lobby this week, they make a pretty decent Master Touch 1-inch watercolor brush. It says for watercolor and acrylic, and it looks like it would be pretty decent. Of course, I haven't used it. Alright, so I'm letting this dry. You want it bone dry, and then the next thing you'll do will be work on your ocean. Alright, so we're going to pretend that it's dry. And it'll probably take, it depends on the humidity. But I'm going to put this aside and get one out that I did last night. Alright, so we're ready to do the ocean now. Alright, see? Bone dry. Ready to do the ocean. Alright, we've done oceans before, but this time we're going to allow a little bit of spacing of where we leave a little bit white so our yellows and oranges from our reflection will come through. But let's forget about the sun and the reflection right now and just work on the ocean. But look, we've got to put some of that black that's reflected from above in the sides. But start with your blue. Alright, I'm still using my 1-inch brush. And I'm going to start way back here. And believe it or not, I'm going to go right over the sails. That's right. Right over the sails. Because you'll put those back later. Okay, look at the little white caps in the distance. Alright, just go left and right. Now I'm going right. And now I'm going left. Now when I get right here where that little window is, try to avoid putting any blue paint on it. No big deal if you forget. But I'm going to have a little light on inside the boat later with yellow. Alright? I saved a little bit of white that's going to show some reflection. Now remember, we want different values. So check your values. Come in here. Work quickly. Keep those strokes going left and right. I need a little bit more white caps on the left. So I just made some. Alright, a little bit more value, maybe here. Values of blue, that means lights, mediums, and darks of a color. And it's going to really look good when we put some of our black in there. It's going to coordinate with the sky. A little bit. And work. You can work slower when you're painting wet on dry. This is a dry brush technique now because we didn't prime the ocean. Do not prime the ocean because we do want some sharp edges. In our sky, we didn't want any sharp edges. We wanted soft edges. Okay, I need a little bit, it's beginning to look a little ocean. like. So I've got some white spaces here that's going to emphasize the reflection. Alright, so I'm still going left and right, leaving small little flat shaped white caps of the ocean. Alright, now while some of it's still wet, I'm going right to my black and I'm going to feather this in and barely hit the paper. By the way, I'm using a watercolor paper that's 140-pound thickness, and it's rough. It's the rough kind. Most of the time I use cold press, but sometimes I like to use the rough just because I have a lot of it on hand and don't want it to waste, mainly. And it's good. I especially like it if I'm doing a country scene with barns and wood. It really emphasizes the roughness and textures. And actually, in the ocean, it helps you keep your white caps a little better. All right. Bring it on in. Bring some of that black on there. All right. Now look how it coordinates better with the sky. Get some grays. You don't want it all jet black. Need a little bit more black right here. Okay. I think I've got it about right, and Hannah's doing well on hers too. Alright, so now I'm going to do the sun and the reflections, and then we'll do the sailboats. Looks weird at first. Looks kind of like a ghost ship sitting back there in the distance. Alright, so I'm going to wash out my 1-inch watercolor brush and pick up my number 10 round. Alright, I'm going to prime this sun. That means 2 layers of water. That's easy to do because this is a small area. Alright, got 1 layer on. A little bit more water. Doesn't take much. Now go right to the yellow. And put yellow on the whole thing. And while that yellow is wet, add orange. Alright, while it's wet, and just touch it around the sides and just kind of let it explode with color, bleed around, and leave it alone. Let it do its own little thing. Hope you can see that. Alright, now while that's drying, I'm going to do right under here the reflections. I'm going to start with yellow. Always in watercolor, start with your lightest color. Alright, I'm going to get some yellow on my brush and go way back here and start putting it on. Bring it forward and notice that it gets wider and bolder, more intense as it comes forward. If it starts to dry on your brush and get gummy, it means you need a little bit more water. Alright, now go to your orange and start putting a little bit of orange on here. It's little at the back. Things seem smaller as they're off in the distance. And then they get bigger. And yes, you can bump it into your yellow. And then some of it can be just regular orange. Alright, so my reflections are done. Alright, now it's time to paint the sailboat. And that's so much fun because it just pulls it all together and makes it look correct. Oh, while I'm at it, I think I will go ahead and don't prime it, but just do your little window yellow. That's going to add some light into the boat. Somebody's down below. Alright, ready to do the sails. Now when I do that, a lot of times I'll outline it first. So I'm going to start up here, and I'm not sure if you can see this, so I'll turn it. Just outline it and fill it in. Alright, our ship or sailboat is beginning to appear. Make sure it's black. Notice how it covers up the blue. That's why you don't need to avoid and paint all the way around that sailboat. Sails. That's one thing about watercolor I love. It makes you think differently. Makes you think ahead. Makes you problem solve. And all that is so good for the brain. Alright, I've outlined that one. Now wet your tip so that your black will flow like ink. Sometimes I see beginner watercolor artists not use enough water, and then they're just using sticky thick paint that won't flow and won't move on the paper. Alright, I have my other sail. Alright, while I'm at it, I will now paint the outline. And see, I can see my pencil lines through this because watercolor is transparent paint. And I can see them. Alright, so I've got that. Now I'm going to avoid the little window so I'll have a bright light there. Keep asking yourself, is my black flowing? Or is it gumming up? Alright, I'm going to wet the tip. Get some black. Check to make sure you don't have grays. This is a silhouette. It's backlit by the sun that is setting. Alright, so after you do that, I've got some other little details to paint, like ropes and different things. I'll do that in a minute. I'm going to do the little boat now. Alright, so come over here. Outline your triangular shape. See how it goes right over that blue? And this boat's smaller and it's farther back on the picture plane, so that lets us know that it's in the distance, and it's good to have things closer up, farther back, and it shows more perspective. Okay, and don't do many details on the smaller ship. Alright, now we're ready to do our reflection of the sailboat, but I'm checking to make sure I've got everything black. So sometimes you might need to just hit it with a few more strokes so it's not gray. If you can see through those sails, go back, put some more black paint on there. Alright, I think that's good. All right, now you've got to get your reflections right. So here's what you do. I'm going to wet my tip, get some black. All right, do you see how that angle goes out like that? So this time you're going to do opposite. All right, this one goes like that, so opposite. Just make some dots. All right. Now come across this way. And don't fill it in solid. This is a reflection. It's not the real thing. So you need to hit and miss. And then the sails, maybe a little longer right here, and a little bit more right here. See how it's higher right here? Keep it vague. Have a wiggly hand. Wet the tip, get a little bit more black. And that's a triangle going pointy that way, so it's going to be opposite here. Goes into a point. Darken it just a little bit. All right, this one here, do the same thing. And it goes close to the, and then let that be. That's all you need to do. So you just kind of scribble on it. All right, but make sure you get that shape that's opposite what you have on the real object. All right, then just go into a point. That's all you need to do right there. All right, so for details, I'm going to switch to my smallest brush, which is, it's called a liner brush or sometimes a zero brush. And this is long. Look how long the hair is. It'll hold a lot of paint. All right, so I'm going to make some little details of some ropes. It's going here and there, and I'm going to put these on here. You might even do a little slight silhouette of some people on the sailboat. Here's another part of the boat right here. Just put as many of them as you want, but I think that's enough. I might need a little something back here. Okay, and then sign your name, and you have it. I hope you enjoyed watching this YouTube of how to make dramatic skies, and it's not as hard as you think. And stay tuned for the next YouTube. Thank you for watching Art with Dianne Mahaffee.